Okay, now we're going to get to Unit 1. So, um, as far as the rendering of the other video, it seems to be working, so I still got my fingers crossed. So we'll see what happens. Let me go share over here. Okay, so you can get to it this way up here, and it'll take you to the individual sections of it. But I want to go through the whole thing, so show you all this. I'm just going to go through content and assignment sheet. The idea of this unit, since we're talking about not just academic world or larger theoretical stuff, we're talking about your world. Okay, we want to see about communicating within your world, what you think about, how you communicate with each other. And we're going to start with discourse community. Now, discourse community is simply a group that you are a member of that has shares certain goals. They may have they always have certain ways of communicating with each other. Um, if you think about, you're going to read an article about doctors. Doctors, if you're around a bunch of doctors, they talk to each other like doctors. And normal people don't understand what they're saying about 85% of the time. Um, that's a discourse community. The medical community is one. There's specific ones within it, but they all know sort of the basic language. I am a part of, you think about the communities you're part of. I'm part of the Writers Guild of America, which is made up of people who now or have written professionally for film and television. Yes, we all talk about MBAs and schedules and pickups and that kind of thing. Yeah, baby baby lights, gaffers and grips and best boys and that kind of stuff. So we have our own way of talking about it. So if you think about maybe the communities that you're a part of, you'll come up with a bunch of them. I mean, we all are a bunch. We're all part of a lot. Like I'm the Writers Guild, like I said. I also crochet. So if you've ever been around a bunch of crocheters, I'm going to stop sharing this for just a second. If you've ever been around a bunch of people who do crafts, they talk a certain way. They have their own language. I dare you to try to read a crochet pattern if you don't know anything about, doubles and half doubles and that kind of thing. I'm also a sports fan. Heaven help me. Yes, I grew up with the Astros and the Cowboys, and so don't hate me. Um, and the sports fans talk a certain way. I've had people write about their skateboard community. I've had people write about. I had one student, and she was a billiards player down at the pool, and she wrote about that community. And so this is sort of a way to step back and look at that community and see how it works in terms of language, how people join, who gets included, who gets excluded, how that system sort of works. So that's a discourse community. So it's a personal essay. It's first person because it's you. I want to see it in action. Your discourse community. Take me a day in the life of, or a day in the meeting of, or when you're sitting around with a bunch of other crocheters talking, or you're online with your nail community, the people who do that sort of thing. What are you talking about? How are you talking, right? Is it easy to join? Can other people join without too much trouble, or does it take a lot to join? So who gets included and who gets excluded? So let me walk you through that. It's about 1,000 words long. I never have anybody come short once they start talking about it. Pictures and images, absolutely wonderful, would be great. Had a student, this was before the pandemic, and she was part of a cultural, it's like preserving the ancient culture of China. And what they actually did was clothing. And so she brought in absolutely this gorgeous dress, and we all kind of but it was one of the things that was part of their community. It's what we call an artifact. So you can talk about the artifacts. With crochet, it's the hooks. And we don't have crochet needles, we have hooks. And we have bulky yarns and that kind of stuff. Football players, that all that stuff. So you can add pictures of all that stuff to show us what your discourse community is like. So let me go back to this and I'll walk you through the assignment sheet and other things here. So this is the assignment sheet. you start thinking about all the discourse communities. Discourse comes from the same word as discursive and discuss. It's all about talking or communicating. And we're all part of a whole bunch of them, right? And they're important. They matter. They have a life of their own, and words matter within them. If you know the educational system and how it talks and how it functions did a number on Muhammad Hassan about his name, right? It wasn't good. Jamila Lyscott, when she's talking about her three different ways of being articulate, those are three different discourse communities. That's, and she changes her communication style depending on which discourse community she's in. So for the reading in this unit, there are going to be three things. One's a brief excerpt from, some of you may have read this, Oscar Wilde in middle school or probably high school. And he looks at one word that has so much power that it sort of rules his whole country. And because he thinks that the word is important, not just to his country, but also to other people. So, and it's a tough read. So we're going to be doing, you guys are going to be responding to that one specifically about how hard it is. And then there are two fun things. One is a article by Queen Latifah about how it's important to her to be called a queen and not a bee, I don't know about CH. And the Perry Classes essay, which is very old, but it still works because it's all about learning the language of being a doctor and how that affected her education, her becoming a doctor. So you're going to talk about there's actually two goals in this thing. One is to talk about the language of the community, how people talk. Does it include people? Does it have is it exclusive or exclusionary? Who's not allowed in the community based on the language? Is the language used to do that, to create those barriers or those entry points? This is not an academic research report. Okay, this is personal, because the other goal is to tell us a story or two to show your discourse community in action and how language works within it. When you read the two things by Queen Latifah and Perry Kloss, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're two really good models for what you can write about. Okay, give us a funny story or a sad one. I've had some ones that just left me and everybody else in the class in tears, and others that just made everybody get up and shout and cheer and that kind of thing. So show us your community in action. Just talk about a day, something that happened, how you were able to join the community, how hard was it, what it means to you to be part of it, what people are not part of it. I've had people do mother groups, right? People, women with infants, and one of them had a couple of guys because they were the caregivers. So it was, how did that happen? And it was really funny. It was very sweet. So all of that stuff is on the table. Now you can use language in a bunch of different ways. You can if you're writing about like a cultural community, I can't say this word, Nuyorican, the Puerto Ricans in New York. Or if you ever read Sandra Cisneros, she talks about Spanglish. So if you want to write part of your essay in that language, your mother language, feel free. Just make it the rest of it accessible enough that we kind of know what you're talking about, right? So you can explain slang to us outsiders. You can show people using it. You can actually use the language if you want to occasionally. You could write in standard written English, or what I call standard white guy English, which is academic language, or you can use a combination of all three. And those are often the ones that are, especially the first two, are the best because they're really engaging. So write any way that feels natural, and think best expresses the importance of your community and how it functions. So this is a story. This is like a personal essay. This is it's not a research report. I think I said it once. I'm probably going to say it about 100 more times. So you're telling us about a part of your life. The other goal of this is that you need to make a point. You're not just talking about language. And here's some examples of it. Latifah's point is that language matters. What you call her matters. Muhammad Hassan was the same way. How you say his name matters. It matters to him. Scott makes the same argument. It matters, you know, because you looked at differently in your different discourse communities based on how you talk. Okay. So you'll be graded on, well, if it's interesting to us, right? Who it's gonna be, because all these are going to get posted in the drive. And so we're going to be commenting on each other's stuff. Not the way you think about in terms of this is grammar, this is spelling, and not that. We're not doing that. I'll show you how to do it in a couple of weeks when we get there. But we're all going to be reading it. So, you know, entertain us, inform us, let us know about your world. If it matters to you, make it matter to us. What can you do to keep people reading? Can you start with something funny? Can you start with something engaging? You start with something that makes us cry. Nobody wants to read an essay that's a 3-page long single paragraph. Okay, I won't read them. I'll just bounce it back to you and say, I'm not going to read this. You got to break it up into paragraphs. Paragraphs in a personal essay like this are weird. They don't follow the 3-sentence a paragraph rule. Whenever you want to change your mind and talk about something else, or you want to emphasize something, make a new paragraph. 1-sentence paragraphs are fine, particularly if that 1 sentence is making a real specific point. So when you see the ones we're going to be reading this week, you'll see what I'm talking about. So that's all. It's not all 1 paragraph. Just don't do that. Okay. Purpose. Without even realizing it, the things that we create as communication texts, everything is a text to me. Has got a reason for being. It's like I said in the last video, it can be just entertaining, but even when we entertain, it makes a point, right? So you want people to see your world in a new way. Do you want to know why the language works the way that it does? Do you want to know more about, do you want us to know more about you and how you came to join this group? Professional organizations are a perfect one for that. Okay, so what's the main point? I will ask you this question. Okay, what is it about without talking about you or the language? So what is it about it at heart? It's like the theme of a movie. You know, what is it really about? It's not about love. It's not about a love story. It's about, can people from different cultures make it work, right? So fiction, language choice, again, make at least some of it in English so I can read it. I don't, like I said, I don't get excited about grammar, spelling, and punctuation too much. As long as I can understand what's going on, I'm fine, especially on the first drafts. Rough drafts, because first drafts are always hard. And then I've got engagement with the readings here. Now, you do not have to quote anything that you've read. If something in one of the readings kind of resonates with you when you're writing about your discourse community, go ahead and mention it if you want to, right? Think about some of the techniques that they use, because we're going to play a little bit next week with descriptions and that kind of stuff. So think about, you know, read like a writer. Think about what they did that you might want to use yourself, right? So the first draft is due in a Google Drive folder on the 19th. There'll be lots of signs. I'll show you the schedule in a second. And the revised draft, after we all give you feedback, I give you feedback, revise it, put it in Brightspace, and that's due the 26th. All right. So these are questions just to kind of get you started thinking about what you might want to write. I'm not even going to read them. Don't answer these in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 order. You know, don't do that. You're telling us a story. Make it look like a story. So that's the assignment sheet. It's 1,000 words story about a discourse community that you're a part of, how you got there, how it works, how you communicate with each other, what the language is like. Right. So that's the assignment itself. Now let me go back over here and I'll show you. Now both classes have got the schedule. The links are up for things, but they're different for each section. But here's the schedule. So this week you're going to read, there's an article in Perusal right here called Understanding Discourse Communities, which some people have already read. Read that, annotate it, you know, make comments on it, talk to each other about it. That's not it. Is this? And then read and annotate so you're reading and annotating this one and this and these two. Now these are together, so don't forget to go down to the second part. Right? Wrong. So that's this week. And then read Fuku, which is also right here, Fuku. And Fuku will direct you over to a Padlet. It better, there it is. Where you'll respond to this prompt that I've left here for you. Right? So that's the readings for that one. So that's this week. The next week, we're going to talk about concrete details. Tell us what Padlet you want to write about and why, add pictures, what we call the artifacts. And there's an activity we'll be doing next week that I'll talk more about, but it's all about playing with details, like visuals, sounds, and smells and textures and that kind of stuff, right? And then read, probably some of you have already read Annie Lamont's Shitty First Drafts, SFDs we call them, so I don't have to say bad words all the time. Read and annotate that because she talks a little bit about, you just have to write it. My mentor, the guy who taught me how to write scripts for TV and film, he had these little rules, and one of his rules was first drafts suck. They will always suck. The magic happens in the rewrite. And boy, that was a hard one for me to get through my thick skull. Once I did, I realized that, man, I can write anything at the beginning because then I could go back and change it. So we'll be talking about, that's sort of what Shitty First Drafts is all about. So read that, and then by the next week, upload your own shitty first draft. Doesn't have to be completely finished, doesn't have to be polished, but at least half of it so we can give you some feedback on where you're going. And you can ask us questions, leave a note at the bottom of it saying, this is what I think, and this is what I need help with. Right, so we're going to help each other do that for a few days. But you post it first, and then you'll go read and peruse all this thing, how to write meaningful peer response. And I'll come back to this, but this is based on the idea that writers, when we turn in anything or submit something, it's scary, right? We're sending our little piece out into the world, and people are going to say bad things about it. But so how do we help a writer make what they have better without, breaking their spirit? And so we do that by saying, well, I like this because, and then going on to this didn't quite make sense to me. Can you explain it a little more? So we're going to we're going to read and practice writing meaningful peer response praise and not worrying about the grammar, spelling, and punctuation, right? So that's what that is. And then there are a couple of practice sessions in that reading. And then you'll pick a couple of pieces by fellow writers in the Google Drive and leave them meaningful peer response praise and perhaps a suggestion or two for each one. And then on the 26th, you'll take that, revise, once you get some of this stuff, revise it and upload it into the Brightspace. Now, Brightspace, I will leave you feedback as quickly as I can. You can put a revision up then. You can wait till the end of the term, doesn't matter. Right? But that's what we're doing. That's what this week, next week, and the week after are all about, is getting this story done. Now, the other things that are in the content section, there's this Padlet talking about Fuku. There's a Padlet for leaving, whatever discourse community you want to write about up there. There is, this is a link to the drive. Okay, that's not the right one. I got to go back and fix it. I'm glad I checked. Fix that. Okay, I'll fix that. What the drive actually looks like, I can find one, is this is my folder, but it looks sort of if I can find. Oops. I'll just use this one, not that. So this is what the drive will look like. So there is a folder for everything. And in this first one, you'll see there's this activity page, which I'll talk more about next week. But that's what's in the drive, and we'll fix that. Okay. And then this is the assignment thing. Revise your rough draft and upload it into the assignment area, which should be right here. Uploading is easy. Okay, add. The best way to do it is here, right there, and you can, okay. And right here, it's your name and then submit it. But we'll do some more of that next time. So yeah, I think that's it. So discourse community, a group that you're a part of, show it to us, tell us about it, show us how you communicate with each other, what language matters to it. And then we'll workshop it with each other. I don't call it peer review, I call it workshopping, because that's what working writers call it. That's what we do, we workshop. So we're going to workshop together. So that's it. I think it's it. I'm tired of talking. I'm going to see if everything is rendered and fingers crossed. I'm also at the below both of these videos, I'm going to put a flyer up for a thing called Mother Language Day, which is a very cool thing that is done through the Writing Center, where people bring in something in their mother language and read it to everybody. And it's quite a wonderful experience. We started it a few years ago, so I'll put that flyer up there too. But that's it. I'm done, and let me know if you have questions. Not, I'll talk to you later.